Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Sauer, and today I will share with you some information on the political and social organization in France. As we've learned through the semester, having an understanding of other cultures is extremely important if we plan on doing business in these cultures. Therefore, I think this information is very valuable to all of us. Today we will cover three major topics. First, we will talk about political and social structure in France. Then we will talk about women in France. And finally, I will talk about personal testimonials about doing business in France. So without further ado, let's get started. France is a republic. The institutions of governance of France are defined by the Constitution, more specifically by the current Constitution. In a republic, people do not vote directly in all elections about what they want to do. Instead, people elect other people to represent them and make decisions on various topics. The current constitution used in France is called the Fifth Republic. The constitution has been amended several times since the start of the Fifth Republic, most recently in July 2008 when the French Congress approved by one vote over the 60% majority required. The French Congress is composed of the two chambers of parliament. Constitutional changes are proposed by the president and approved by Congress. The Fifth Republic was established in 1958 when General de Gaulle, the first president, and Michael Debré, his prime minister, worked diligently on it. It has been amended 17 times since its origination. Though the French Constitution is parliamentary, extensive powers have been given to the president and ministers to the executive when compared to Western democracies. The head of the state and head of the executive branch is the president, and they are elected as France has universal suffrage. Since May 2012, France's president has been François Hollande. Originally a president of the Fifth Republic, was elected for a 7-year term called Le Septennat in French, and could be renewed an unlimited quantity of times. In 2002, that was changed, and the president now can be elected for a 5-year term, or Le Quinquennat in French. In 2008, a constitutional reform was passed, so now the maximum number of terms a president may serve is 2. The president is also supreme commander of the military, and he determines policy with the help of his Council of Ministers, or Conseil des Ministres in French. The president resides at the Élysée Palace, or Le Palais de l'Élysée in Paris, which compares to the White House in the United States. The president appoints a prime minister who forms a government. Since 2015, the prime minister has been Manuel Valls. The residence of the prime minister is at Matignon House, or l'Hôtel Matignon in Paris. Theoretically, ministers are appointed by the prime minister. However, unless the president and the prime minister are from different sides of the political spectrum, known as la cohabitation, the prime minister and president will collaborate to form a government. The president must approve all of those appointed to the government by the prime minister. The cabinet, also known as Le Conseil des Ministres, meets on a weekly basis and is watched over by the president. Ministers determine policy and present new legislation to Parliament in the form of bills or projets de loi within the framework of existing law. Policy is applied through decrees or decrets. The French Parliament is made up of 2 houses or chambers. They make up the legislative branch. The lower and principal house of Parliament is the National Assembly, also known as Assemblée Nationale. The second chamber is the Senate, also known as Senat. Members of Parliament, called députés, are elected through general elections, or élections législatives, that occur twice each decade. Senators are elected by grand electors, or grands électeurs, which are other locally elected representatives such as mayors. The electoral system for parliamentary elections involves two rounds. A candidate can be elected during the first round by achieving an absolute majority of votes casted. The second round is a vote between two or more candidates. Until recently, the left-wing Socialist Party had the majority in both houses. However, the Socialists lost their majority in the Senate in the fall of 2014. Even though the Minister of Justice, or le garde des Sceaux, has powers over the controlling of the justice system and its public prosecutors, the judicial branch is strongly independent of the executive and legislative branches. The Code Civil is the official handbook of the French civil law. Similar to the United States, the French have political parties. Because we are limited on time, we will only go over a few of the parties here today. On the right, the conservative Union pour un Mouvement Populaire, or UMP party, is one of France's largest parties. The party was created by Jacques Chirac back in 2002 when he was re-elected as president. This party appeals to many people because it covers a broad range of opinions, including traditional conservatives, social liberals, and neoconservatives. This party believes in social conservatism. The next party falls in between the right and the left and is called the Mouvement Démocratique, or MoDem. Lastly, on the left, we have the Parti Socialiste, or Socialist Party. This party is the largest party of the left and was formed roughly 40 years ago. Originally, it was similar to the Labour Party in the UK before it became New Labour. Over time, it has progressed and now believes in privatizing certain parts of the economy. Unlike many other countries, the French don't have a particular pro-business political party. In fact, Alain Madelin, who ran on a pro-business platform in 2002, garnered less than 4% of the vote. Professor Douglas Weber feels that the lack of political business orientation is historical in France. He feels that the formation of the Paris Commune in 1871 solidified class identity in France. In French history, there were many legal privileges awarded through nobility and the clergy. The French Revolution established the legal equality of all citizens, but it did not erase the distinction among social groups in France. It also did not fundamentally alter the income distribution in France. Currently in France, there are three major social classes. The elite class is composed of politicians, civil servants, business leaders, and wealthy families that have inherited their wealth. The middle class is composed of white-collar workers, clerical, retail, and food service workers. Lastly, the lower class is composed of the blue-collar jobs. After World War II, post-war economic expansion brought greater distribution of wealth, which expanded affluence to more people. The expansion of wealth increased the size of the middle class and blurred the lines between socioeconomic status. This is good because ambition and hard work has more of an influence on social status than being born into money does. France is also becoming more accepting of the idea that women are a critical part of the workforce. Prior to the war, women were expected to stay at home. Women began entering the workforce in the 1970s. Women are 45.9% of the workforce currently, and women have still been shown to be more likely to be underpaid or unemployed, however. The diagram at the bottom of the screen shows women participation in the workforce from 1990 to 2010. During that 20-year period, women participation improved more than 10%. Flirting is generally very accepted in France, so for that reason, Barbara Corcoran would probably fit in very well in French society. She recently received a lot of criticism for stating, "I find running a business in a man's world to be a huge advantage. I wear bright colors and yank up my skirt to get attention." Based off my research, this might be seen as acceptable in France, even though it's frowned upon in the United States. I interviewed a client of mine who lives in France but currently owns a shoe store in Greenwich Village. I asked the client about the differences that he faced when doing business in the United States as opposed to France. He said that getting credit as a small business owner is much easier in France. Based off of revenue, banks will take much larger risks with small business. As opposed to the United States, it's much more difficult to gain credit to assist with cash flow needs. According to another friend that I have, that is a private contractor that moved into the United States that works in design, he said the biggest difference is the legal system. He contracted an attorney in the United States, and the attorney made major revisions to the contract he had been using with his clients in France. He said everything has to be much more clearly outlined in the United States, whereas the French assume the obvious. This concludes my presentation on the political and social organization of France. I hope that you will be able to utilize what we've learned for a competitive advantage when doing future business in France. Today, we've been able to cover the political and social structure in France, the roles women play in society, and a couple of differences between conducting business in France and the USA. Thank you very much.